Everybody's got an opinion, but what's actually true? From careers...
I'm a resident in psychiatry.
A music executive.
Creator, influencer, vitu ni mingi zinafanya.
An events MC, curator and producer.
Super DJ, super producer.
I'm a neurosurgeon by profession.
I'm a rider.
Myths to everyday life debate, we ask the questions you're already thinking and get straight to the point.
To become a psychiatrist, you have to become a medical doctor first.
One word that describes the events world. Hectic. Okay? It is H for hectic. God damn.
Real talk.
I have held a brain in my hands.
You have to have an ear for music.
Popularity doesn't always reflect greatness.
There's a skit I have of toxic boyfriend. I'm not a toxic, I'm a good person, as you people can see.
No fluff. Just facts.
Unafikiria ni Spider-Man, you can maneuver everywhere. Unakuwa Jesus.
This is Quick Ones.
Hi everyone, I'm Marge, also known as Dr. Adagi, Marjorie. I'm a neurosurgeon by profession and also a business lady. Yeah, and I'm on Quick Ones, and I hear you have some questions for me. All right. How long have you been a neurosurgeon? Very interesting. Yeah, so as a consultant neurosurgeon, this is now my 3rd year, but I spent 6 years in my residency. So I would say as a neurosurgeon, 3 years. How many years of training does it require for me to become a neurosurgeon? Yeah, so there's about 6 years of undergraduate training, then 1 year of internship, so that's 7 years. Then about maybe 1 to 2 years of just being a medical officer, you know, to get the hands on, but that is not usually compulsory. Then another 6 years to now do my residency. So I've spent about 13 years to become a neurosurgeon. Yeah, that's more than the age of some people. So it's a long time, but yeah, but it's doable. What does a day in the life of a neurosurgeon look like? Okay, I would talk about my day because I would not know what other people do. But basically, it's just, you're just a normal human being, but you have responsibilities to open up a brain here and there. So I like to start my day with gratitude. A lot of gratitude and a lot of prayers, especially if I have like a serious case to do or a difficult case. Then there's the normal breakfast that people have. I try to eat something heavy so that I don't collapse. I don't want to collapse in theater. It's very bad. Yeah, and then I head out now to either do my preoperative reviews if I do have a case, and then I start the case. So the case can take, depending on the complexity, it can take like anything from 1 hour up to 10 hours or even more. Yeah, so that is typically my day. Also of note is that I'm a mother and I'm a wife, so I have to go back home after theater, throw away my surgeon, whatever, and now come back to my motherly duties and wifey duties. Yeah, so I guess it's like a bit of a balance of knowing where you are. So that's my day. What's the most complex case I've ever taken? Do you mean cases? Because there are many. Now that you've asked me that question, I remembered like when I was doing my residency, I was very lucky to be in a very good program at the University of Nairobi, that is Kenyatta. And I had like wonderful, wonderful teachers. And I remember when you're going to your final years, that is your fifth, sixth year, you had to select a case. And so the challenge is you want to challenge yourself, so that you can be able to go out there and take up anything, fearlessly. And so one time we did this case and we were in theater for 17 hours, just we started at around 10 a.m. and by 1 we were still there. And it was, for me, it was so challenging. It got to around 9, and some of my colleagues who were just they were not scrubbed in, but they were assisting. They were like, "You have to eat something, Madge, or do we give you some juice through a straw?" Once you're scrubbed, you're sterile, so you can't really touch anything. You must be completely sterile. So for me, that was a difficult case. 17 hours, that was difficult for me, but we pulled through by God's grace. Yeah. So am I able to tell you what I was removing from the brain? Okay, so we were a team of neurosurgeons. There was a team of now our teachers. I think he was one. It was one. Then now a team of neurosurgical residents. So we were 2 main ones, plus now our colleagues. So when we do these complex cases, especially during residency, we always have like a guide, so that because he's the lead surgeon. So there was this lady. She had a very serious tumor. Like the brain is the computer of your body, so it controls everything. It controls how you walk, how you talk, what you say, how you think, everything, even the way you cry. Can you imagine? All those emotions, they're actually controlled by your brain. So this lady had this tumor that was affecting a certain nerve that controls how she eats, coughs, swallows, and that area is usually very complex. Yeah. So it required a lot of preoperative planning, and even planning, and a lot of adjuncts, like things you do to assist you during the surgery, like neuromonitoring, like you monitor those nerves, and it wasn't just accessing the brain, you also had to access part of the neck. So it was like almost like a 2-in-1. And I think for us, you're conscious at that point, because any small thing that goes wrong, this person's life is changed forever. Though you cannot reverse that damage, but you must be very alert. You can't allow any small mistake to, it's not permissible. So for me, I think that was what made the surgery very difficult. Like just knowing that anything, the complexity of it, knowing that any small thing that you do, any wrong move might cost her. Yeah. But also cognizant of the fact that this is already a very sick patient, and you are just, you may not be able to reverse the effects, but you can probably prevent ongoing damage. What breaks most people during residency? This is a very nice question. Because I feel as you're going into residency, we are all from different backgrounds and different cultures. If I can just tell my story of how I became a resident, because initially I always knew I was going to do something like become a neurosurgeon, but I just didn't know it was going to happen on that year. And this is somewhat related to now the resilience now you develop, because you can't go through this if you don't have resilience, because or if you don't grow some resilience, any small comment that someone tells you can actually put you down, you know. And depending on how well you have developed your strength, you can actually break. Okay, so now a quick one. I just had my baby at that point. It was 2017. My baby was 2 months old, and I remember I had not slept, you know, like those who have had babies can relate. Yeah, I had barely slept that night. But also where I was working, the environment was it wasn't a friendly environment. I felt, I don't know whether you've ever reached a point in your life where you just feel like there's something out there for me. I want to do something different. And if these people are making my life, or if this environment is making my life so unbearable, I'm going to do the hardest thing. So that's how I went to do neurosurgery. I was like, if this, whatever I'm going through here is so difficult, I am going to go for the hardest course. And how people say have plan A, plan B, plan C, I only had plan A. I said, I'm going to go do this. I'm going to attend this. Before you do the neurosurgery, you have to sit an exam, 2 exams. So they're entrance exams, and they filter you out. So I sat for, you have to sit for a theoretical exam, then you sit for an oral exam. So, and you have to have applied. So I guess because it's a little bit of a male-dominated program, or a male-dominated career, I was the only lady who had applied that year. So I have my 2-month-old baby, and I've barely slept. Then I have a very strong spiritual connection with God, you know. So I just, I just wake up from my sleep. It's like 10, and like that small sleep that you're like, I'm trying to sleep, but I can't. Then I just see my phone and I see this missed call. And then it's a new number. And I'm like, what number is this? Let me just call this number. So I call this number. Then someone receives they're like, I'm Dr. So-and-so, and we're calling you from Kenyatta. Right now, you have applied for a neurosurgical exam. You're supposed to be here. And you need to be here right now, or you will not sit for the exam. So you will not be able to know if we can take you in. We won't take you in. I was like, wait a minute, I have barely slept. So how am I gonna make it to? And that time, I had a manual car. I wasn't even a good driver. So, and I've barely slept. I have not even prepared. I haven't read. And here I am, I'm being told to get ready for the exam. So I was just like, God, thank you. I'm going to do this. I was like, if today I'm going to be baptized by fire, I'm going to get on the manual car and I will drive it to Nairobi. And so these are the things now that when you develop such things as you go for as you're preparing, it's like a war, you can't go to war without the tools. And sometimes you can lose the war, but if you develop some bit of resilience to know that whatever is happening around you is not, it's external, then definitely you may break, but you will get up. I think that's what I'm trying to say. So the hardship that I had to go through so that to prepare me to sit for that exam, to pass, then to go for the interview and pass by God's grace, then to get into the program, already made it a bit difficult for anyone to tell me, to break me. But also I must say, Of course, you're going to meet people who are going to make you feel like you're not good enough, you don't know what you're doing, you made a mistake, they're going to dwell on it. So if you allow those, because mistakes are external, they are part of the learning process. And I feel like the validation that people don't receive from others may contribute to now what breaks people. Is intelligence enough to survive this field? Wow, this is a very, very good question. When I was a resident, I used to think that, we had this mentality, even when we were in school, for those who are just, for those who sat, the national exams, we were always taught that the best are the ones who emerge the top are the ones who are gonna, make it in life. But on the contrary, I don't feel like that is true entirely, because there's so many factors that come into play to now make you a successful person in whatever field you're in. Because you may find that when you were in school, you used to think like, yeah, I have to be the best. I have to be, the toppest student in my class, and I have to do this, I have to do that. But funny enough, when you finish and you meet a patient there called Jane, Jane does not care that you are number one or you are very intelligent. All they want from you is that you're good at what you do and you're empathetic to their situation. And I feel that that is what I have been learning over time, that because when you feel that you're so intelligent, you're going to show some bit of arrogance. And these patients you're treating, they're already so stressed, they're going through so much. So it may help to just put yourself in their shoes and now be empathetic to their situation, but also be cognizant of the limits that you have as a doctor or as a surgeon and as a person, and work on that. So to answer your question, Jen will not care whether you are number one in your school. All they'll care about is, are you good at what you do? And are you empathetic enough to their situation? What is the most weird thing I have removed in a brain? Yeah, so there's one time this child came with a spear. I even have that photo in my phone, like an arrow here at a certain part in the brain. And all you're thinking is, my goodness, this is a young child. How did they just get a spear? They were fighting and amedungwa kisu. So I think, yeah, and we managed to do the surgery, and by God's grace, the child was okay. For me, that was the most weird thing I have removed. Yeah. Have I ever held a brain on my hands? Yeah, definitely. When you're part of training, especially when you're doing your undergraduate and postgraduate, the anatomical, the years where you do anatomy, which is just the understanding of the human body. Yeah, you have to hold a brain, dissect it, so that you understand what structures are here, what is here, what is there. Yeah. So I have held a brain in my hands, yes. What is the closest I have come to losing a patient? This is a difficult question, I think, because for neurosurgical patients, sometimes we do get patients who are on the verge of death, probably, especially the trauma ones, like maybe someone was hit on the head and is bleeding, and all of a sudden they're not able to sustain, to breathe normally, and they have to go to ICU with tubes and whatnot. So we've had both situations where now this becomes a life-saving procedure, where you think, should I try and do something here? And even just explaining to the family, or the close relatives, like we want to try and do 1, 2, 3, but we can't guarantee you of life after that. So we have this. I think in neurosurgery, every time you go into a brains patient, it is a potential risk of either recovering that patient, especially the critically ill ones, or losing that patient. So to be honest, because I always tell my patients this, like, I will not sell you false hope, especially if you're very critically ill. I feel you need to know the truth that we are going in to try and save this life, but there's also a risk of losing, either while you're in theater or after theater. So we come close to that almost every other day. How do I deal with my mental health? Another very good question, because yeah, you know, to be honest, I was just thinking the other day, like, when things are so heavy, maybe you've had a very difficult case and you don't know how it's gonna go. There's the pressure of the relatives trying to know, is our patient going to make it or not? And for me, what has helped me is believing in a higher power, who is God. Like, just knowing that some of these things, we come into this world and to be used as vessels. And sometimes it's not what I do is a direct reflection of probably what God may want me to do. I ask Him to strengthen me, to give me that mental capacity, even as I go to theater, to help my hands, know what I need to do. Of course, coupled with the knowledge that I have. But sometimes, I don't know, it's a bit controversial. Some people don't believe in that, and it's okay. I respect it. But what has helped me is just knowing that God is with me and He's helping me. And also having a strong support system around me, my family, my friends, my mom, and my colleagues. Like, I have a strong support team, my colleagues. Like, we sit down, we discuss this case. After theater, if we feel, we're like, yeah, this is okay, this is gonna be this. So I feel the community around you really, it has helped me in a great way to be somewhat, level-headed. Even when I feel like, quitting, not really quitting, but slowing down, the community around me always pushes me, plus my inner drive. Yeah, this is, a neurosurgeon is really amongst the highest paid doctors. Now, how do I answer these questions? I think times have changed, honestly. I think times have changed. Currently, we have doctors who have diversified into other things, like businesses and whatnot. And you'll find them, making more than what neurosurgeons make. But I would tell you, neurosurgeons are paid okay. They're paid well. Yeah, depending on the number of cases you do, the hospitals that you work with, and how hard you work yourself, Yeah, I think those are the factors that contribute. I don't know. I can't answer, because the question is wide. Like, are we amongst the highest paid? We may be better paid, but other people have also found ways of trying to up their income. So at the end of it all, it's how great how you push yourself. Are there department politics and competition? Definitely. Where would this? Yeah, you're gonna find one or two people who try to upstage you. But this was more common when I was a resident. Because, you know, someone would think that the validation of your attendings or your lecturers would mean that, you know, you're better than others. But this is something I've come to learn, like you need to be comfortable in your own skin while working towards being better and improving yourself. That way, you will not feel the need to upstage someone. So what they do or don't do is inconsequential to who you are, because you know who you are. If you know who you are, like you'll never find a lion or trying to go convince a leopard that me, you know me, I'm a lion. No, they just do their thing. They know who they are. They work well. And at the end of it all, I mean, their character shows. So there's definitely departmental politics, but I saw that mostly when I was a resident. Once I finished, as I told you, I have a group of very awesome colleagues that we work with, and I don't see we work together. We don't work against each other. Yeah, so we do some group practice here and there. So we don't, so because you know, neurosurgery is already so stressful. Now you don't want to have someone else now trying to, you know, to make your life a living hell. Yeah, so in residency, definitely, but after residency, I think it's a little bit manageable for me. Do patients wake up during surgery? Okay, so this is an interesting question because nowadays, in the advent of technology, we even have awake craniotomies. Like these are surgeries we do when the patients are awake. But we have a team of dedicated anesthesiologists who are basically the doctors that give the medication to help a patient sleep and not feel pain. Okay, so it's really advanced how they work it, because they don't want the patient to feel pain, but the patient should be awake. And these ones we do mostly when you want to preserve some function. Like let's say this person, you're working on a very important part of the brain, maybe which controls hand movements, or maybe this person is, you know, is a musician and they want to keep on playing. So you don't want that patient to lose that function. So you must keep them awake so that as you're operating there, you tell them, okay, move this, and they move. So in those complex surgeries, some patients are actually awake. But in the other surgeries, we rarely want the patients, from the ones we have done, you know, the patient may not wake up like, here I am, I'm awake. Because, you know, they're draped and everything, but you can tell maybe you want to keep them as calm as possible so that now because when they start waking up, the pressures in the brain also increase. So we work with very serious consultants, anesthesiologists, who now are able to effect what we want. If we want to do awake craniotomies, they can do that. And if we want to do craniotomies where the patient is completely asleep and calm, they also do that. But I've never had a scenario where the patient now just wakes up. But towards the end of the surgery, you know, you can slowly, you know, sometimes you can just see a patient now has started to move, like as you're putting in the dressing, you know, as you're closing up. So they've never really woken up like, but yeah, I think you get the drift. What is the one brain condition that scares me the most? Yeah, so I remember when I was a resident, we were working around this what we call aneurysms and arteriovenous malformations. Basically, These are just conditions which involve like arteries in the brain, where probably an artery, the wall the wall of the artery is weak, so it is bulging. Okay, so because it's bulging and probably the patient has high blood pressure, it just bursts. Okay, it just bursts open, and the patient is now bleeding into the brain, and the brain is now swollen, and hey, it's like a minefield. so so those are very delicate surgeries anywhere in the world, which require a lot of preoperative planning. And honestly, if I can just be honest, they sometimes my heart, you just especially when you're going there to, careful dissection and whatnot, you just don't want to precipitate any bleeding. So it's like a high energy kind of environment. So yeah, those ones sometimes they can get my heart racing once in a while. Yeah, but also other than that, very complex tumors, which probably engulf those vessels. Mostly it's to do with the vessels, like they've eaten up those vessels and now you have to slowly remove. Also those ones can be pretty scary, but have to be done nonetheless, carefully. Can love be reduced to brain chemistry? This is a very interesting question. Would I ask a psychologist to answer it? I don't know. Because, yeah, of course, sometimes I think love is I used to think love is just love, but nowadays I think love is a choice. I don't know. Maybe some would agree with me or not. But what I feel can be reduced to brain chemistry is attraction, because definitely there are those hormones that are produced based on whether you're male or female. They don't choose, they don't choose like this. You just see something you like, and that thing is produced, and all of a sudden you like that person, or you're attracted to that person. But for love, I think love is a choice, because you choose every day. You may have been attracted to this person initially, but to love them forever is a choice, in my opinion. How do I unwind after operating? Okay, so it's very interesting. I have so many things I do after operating. When I'm at work, sometimes I'm very serious, but after work, depending on the day, if it's just a weekday, when I get home, I don't want anything serious. I don't want to listen to politics or what is happening, sad news. No, I actually watch very silly programs, comedies, maybe drink like some mango juice or some tea. Like, I just like to feel like things are light. I don't like to add on to my already very heavy day. Yeah, and occasionally I have friends, we meet, we go out, we plan a trip here and there. So that's how I unwind. Are there patient statements that stayed with you? Yeah, this is a very deep question, because what I've come to realize, especially in my consultancy journey, is patients are usually, sometimes they're just looking for hope, and they're also just looking for someone they can trust, who's also empathetic, and not someone who will be dismissive, like maybe they come tell you, I'm feeling like this. You're like, who told you need to feel like that? So sometimes knowingly or unknowingly, you're just yourself, and you're just there, you're empathetic to their situation, and after everything has happened, you find them so, maybe the patient woke up. I don't really have a particular statement, but I can recall patients probably who have, sent me a nice message telling me, thank you here and there, we appreciate you. And those ones really hit deep, because, probably when you were doing it, you were just doing it for the sake of it, not for anything. But someone actually remembered to thank you. And that actually feels good. It feels good. So yeah, I can't pinpoint a particular statement, but those few that have managed to, or those ones who have managed to just appreciate you, I think those ones are always stuck. Yeah, they stick. Have you ever refused to operate? This is a difficult question. Yeah, I think part of our career, one of the things about our career is understanding your limits and also explaining to the patient on all the available options. Sometimes I work in the county also, Kiambu County, and you may find that in some situations we may have a very difficult case where probably something is missing here and there to help us execute this case with proper precision. So in that case, you must always put the patient's well-being as a priority to see how well they can be assisted. So at that point, you probably have to now refer upwards to Kenyatta most of the time. So I would say that is part of not really refusing, but acknowledging that there are some things that you may need which are probably not within your reach at that particular moment, which now, if you delay a little, the patient's outcomes may be poor. So at that point, then you have to make the best decision, which is now guide the patient upwards to a place where they can be assisted. And most of the time it's to Kenyatta. Yeah, so there are instances where we've had to refer upwards. What are the hardest decisions I've had to make in theatre? There are so many. I remember some of my colleagues that we work with who were maybe a few years ahead of us used to tell us that a good surgeon always knows when to stop, okay? Because sometimes you see probably there's this patient who has this growth and you want to remove it, but probably where it is, it's not in a very it's in a very eloquent area, like an area where if you keep on trying to remove, you will leave the patient worse than before. So I think this is usually sometimes the issue, like, do I need to remove this one and leave this patient, worse than they came in? Or is it better for me to leave something because probably it's holding on to some vessel? If it's cut, this patient may, be worse. So I leave something here to make them, to keep them alive after theatre. And so as a neurosurgeon, unfortunately, this is a decision you have to make almost every other day. Understanding and knowing when to stop, when it is safe for the patient. And that is our reality. That is my reality. Do we have enough surgeons in Kenya? I would say no. I would definitely say no. But over years, I think the programs have been more and more, like I would say even for neurosurgery, they're picking up more and more residents to train. I remember there's a time just a few years ago, neurosurgeons were just like 30. 30 something, but now we are maybe 60, 70. And over the years, the numbers are going to double because more and more people are actually studying. I think with the devolution of health, probably the issue may not even be so much with the numbers because people are studying, but equipping the hospitals now, because now we are having surgeons being posted to Garissa, to Nanyuki, to, all parts of Kenya, Kilifi, Kwale. But if I go there as a neurosurgeon, but the facility is not capable of supporting my services, then that becomes like a wasted human resource power, because now it will limit the extent of what you can be able to deliver to that community. So I do feel, number one, we don't have enough surgeons. The more the merrier, but also the hospitals, especially the hospitals, the government hospitals, need to be equipped enough to handle such a resource, like human resource. Do I carry work home? Yeah, sometimes I won't sit here and pretend like I don't. But really, like, I feel like, okay, so this is, if the probably the case was so overwhelming, probably it drained me, it was long, it was tiring, it was complicated. I'm a human being. Definitely, as I'm driving home, I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, that was hard. It was hard. But I also feel like when I get home, home is like a safe haven for me. So when I see my kids, my hubby, and just the environment in general, whatever pressure I was feeling, coupled with those silly shows I watch for comedy, it just starts to wear off. So I wouldn't really say I carry it, but sometimes it stays on my mind until I'm able to, just forget about it and move on. What is one thing that would shock people about the brain? A lot. I think, okay, for the patients that we have been treating, I think they're usually shocked to, when we ask them some symptoms of probably maybe they have a tumor somewhere, and we're like, do you feel like nowadays you're so angry? And they're like, yeah, I've been getting so angry at small things. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's a function of where that tumor is sitting. That's the function of that part. They're like, really? That's why I've been throwing things around. I'm like, yeah, you're aggressive. So I find that sometimes people may not really know the extent of the functions of the brain, but there are so many. And I think when you break them down, even thinking, how you think, how you memorize things, how you get aggressive, your emotions. I think those are the things that I find my patients get shocked when I mention it to them. The most misunderstood aspect of the field. I don't know. I feel probably it has to do with this God complex. I have had it severally. Like sometimes people think maybe neurosurgeons' heads are so, pumped up, you're just feeling like I don't think so. Like, I have friends and my colleagues who I can count so many, like who I feel when I interact with them that they're very easygoing. And I wouldn't really say that they have a God complexity, but I could be, I don't know, I'm subject to, correction. But I find that they're very easygoing and always, and always ready to assist when necessary. Yeah. Proudest moment. Yeah, so I think I've had two that have stood out for me. I lost my father in 2021, just when I was like 1 year into finishing my residency. And he was one of my biggest supporters. And I lost him very fast, like, you know, kufumba kufumbua. He wasn't there anymore, and I really didn't think I would make it. I was broken for quite a long time, but I kept on hearing like his voice telling me, you must go on, you must go on, young girl, you must go on. So I pushed and pushed by God's grace, and I actually finished. For me, that was a very proud moment that I took the pain that was handed to me, and by God's grace managed to finish what was started in me. So my graduation was a really proud moment for me. That was one. My second proudest moment was I did a very complex surgery with a colleague of mine. He's my, like, we work together, and I find that we are synergistic, you know, like we feed off each other. And at the end of that surgery, I looked at that scan after, and the patient was awake and walking, and I was so proud. I was like, thank you, Lord, for giving us the grace to be able to do this. So in fact, even one of my other colleagues told me, hey, after you did that surgery, it's like you were walking on air. I was like, I was feeling so good that we were able to execute such a complex surgery. And yeah, so those have been my proudest moments so far. Are robots replacing neurosurgeons? I think these guys are trying so hard, but I don't think they would be able to get there as much. But what I feel is also the world is changing. So, you know, you may never know. The likes of like tech is taking over. In some fields like general surgery, gynecology, the robots are actually performing those surgeries with precision. But these robots, they are controlled by the surgeons themselves. So a surgeon is eventually the one who will probably sit and direct, you know, the robot on what it needs to do. They just they have more precision. But I feel the brain is already so understudied. Like so much of it is unknown. And until we get to that point where we're able to understand why some things happen the way they will, I don't know if we are ready to have robots taking over. Probably for the simpler procedures, like removing a clot from a certain part. But now for the more complex ones, I think it may be a bit of more time before they get there. Do people overestimate what neurosurgeons can control? Overestimate means like the expectations are extremely high. I think so. Because and that's what I feel like probably this. So for example, you have patient A who has had a very serious tumor that has been growing for maybe 3 years and has left her in a very, you know, a serious condition, maybe not able to use their hands, their legs. Then they come to you now, they feel that once you remove this tumor, they'll start walking. No, probably is there a possibility you'd walk? Yes. But is there a possibility that you may not regain this function? Yes. And that is now what I believe the thing that I emphasize on most as a neurosurgeon is sitting down with the relatives and discussing now the goals of what you're able to do as a surgeon, what this surgery will do, the risks versus the benefits, so that you don't also oversell oversell and overpromise. You just be as honest as possible. Yes, there's a possibility that you will work, but there's also a possibility that I may not be able to reverse this. And I think once we are more honest with our patients, probably we'll be able to manage a bit of those expectations. Are tech brain implants the solution to irreversible situations? I think tech and health needs to work together, because we have seen situations like in the Western world where they spend billions in research trying to revive spinal cord injury, stem cells injections, and here because there's some things, as I've said, as a neurosurgeon, you may not be able to reverse. For example, a patient has a complete cord transection, like the spinal cord has been cut because of, trauma. Unless by a miracle, this patient may not walk, okay? But if there's a way that tech can, offer some sort of circuitry, that can enable this patient to regain a function that they did not have, why not exploit? Like, I feel the issue is not to work in competition, but to work together. And I do feel that tech is making some progress, especially in the vision and paralysis. And I feel like, let's see what else they have to offer. Do you believe we fully understand consciousness yet? I don't feel like we understand. I don't feel like we have properly grasped the concept of consciousness. Otherwise, so many things would make sense for us. People are still trying to understand, dreams. People are still trying to understand, sleep. People are still trying to understand so many things that affect the physiology of just a normal brain. So I do not believe that. I feel like there's still more to be understood. We have not fully understood that concept. Could you explain types of comas from reversible to fatal? Hey, this sounds like an exam. Yeah, so what we usually, as a neurosurgeon, what we usually use to look at the level of consciousness, we call it a Glasgow coma scale. So this coma scale just looks at three things. How is the eye opening, like the way, my eyes are open right now. Communication, the verbal part. Am I able to talk? Can I articulate myself well? When you ask me a question like you're asking me, am I able to respond well? So the other one is how well you're able to move your limbs, okay? Your motor response. So do I have strength? If I'm not conscious, if you induce some pain, am I able to fight? Am I able to fight it? Am I able to resist you or touch you if you're trying to induce pain and and the patient is unconscious? So we usually score this out of 15, all right? So out of a scale of 15, so someone who's oriented in time, place, and person, answering, the eyes are open, that is a 15 over 15. That's a perfect person. Someone who's a little bit confused, like they're opening eyes, and they're able to walk, but they're talking a lot of gibberish, like maybe someone who's drinking alcohol. That's like a 14, they're just confused. But then, so we usually categorize it from mild, moderate to severe head injury. So once your score is below 8, okay, that means probably your eyes are not opened spontaneously, your eyes are closed, or you're not able to fight back, or you're not able to move your limbs spontaneously, or even if I induce pain, your responses are weird, maybe instead of fighting me, you're doing this, you know, you're just making some funny moves, then I'm able to score that out of a 6, okay? And then if you're not talking completely, or you're making just some sounds, like instead of answering me back, if I ask you what's your name, instead of saying my name is so and so, you're just like so that sound will give you a 2. But if you're talking some funny words, that will give you a 3. So there's a way we score it, and any score below 8 is a severe score. Is it reversible? It's hard to tell, because we are not God. Some patients, they may have scored very low. The lowest score is a 3, okay? A 3, that means you're not opening eyes, you're not moving any limbs, and you're not talking. And if you have a tube, some people would say it's a 3T for tube, or for intubated, or just a 2T. So that one is like the lowest score, okay? Now, even if you have this very low score, what we usually look at is, now, are your brain functions preserved, okay? So what are these brain functions? There are some reflexes that we look at, that even a patient who's comatose may still be able to elicit them, okay? Maybe like your cough, are you able to gag? How your pupils are reacting to light. So there are some few things we look at. Are you able to maintain your blood pressure? Because blood pressure control is also part of the brain function. So if those are gone, then sadly now that becomes a point of you can't come back. You will not come back. But if those are still maintained despite your level of consciousness being so low, then there's a chance that you may come back. Yeah, so I hope that is a little bit here. Why do we induce comas? Yeah, so what happens is the brain is inside bone, okay? And bone is rigid, you know, the skull is rigid. And there's permitted volumes of brain tissue and blood and what we call CSF, cerebrospinal fluid, which is just the brain fluid. So these things are supposed to exist in a certain volume, okay? But you may find that in some patients, maybe a patient has a tumor or is bleeding into the brain, that blood is occupying space that is not there. It's like an unwanted visitor. So it's causing the level of consciousness to deteriorate. And also it's causing, because it's like something growing somewhere or something trying to occupy space in a tight space. So the brain is going to suffer because it's going to be pushed, okay? Because of the pressures. The pressures are going to increase, and the pressures inside the brain is going to push the brain to the other side. So when that happens now, there's impending what we call herniation, like the loss of function of the brain. So what we want to do is control these pressures in the brain. And that is now one of the reasons of inducing a coma, so that you allow the brain to rest completely, so that the pressures in the brain don't increase and now cause damage the brain further. So that is the biggest reason why we induce comas, to manage the intracranial pressures. Any tips to take care of our brains? Yeah, I think the biggest tip would be not just taking care of it, like, you know, physically, but mentally, you know, mental health is extremely important, because if you ignore that, then you may find that probably someone is going into alcoholism or depression, and those are now risk factors to now get brain issues, you know, you know, bleeds in the brain. Okay, when a patient now probably is not well mentally and is driving while drunk, then they get into a horrific accident and then they bleed into the brain. So I think the first thing to do while to take care of your brain is to take care of your mental state. Because if you have a clear mental state, then you will make the right decisions. Number two is the foods that we eat. You know, nowadays we have a lot of what we put in. We have a lot of unhealthy foods, and maybe we live a very sedentary lifestyle. You know, we don't get moving. But I would say also some of these things, you know, they are beyond our control. Like I can't, you know, the brain, I can't say that because you ate too much sukuma wiki, now you got a brain tumor. You know, there's no obvious reason. You can have risk factors, okay? Maybe you had a family member who had an aneurysm, or you had this, who had that. But I can't really pinpoint something that may have caused you to get this. Okay, so some of these things that happen, they're beyond your control. But of course, just, you know, don't live a sedentary lifestyle. Take care of your mental health, etc, etc. Is there gender imbalance in the industry, and how do you live through it? Yeah, I think definitely, you know, this is a patriarchal society. I think over time I just stopped fighting it, and I've just grown comfortable in my own skin. Not to look at myself as a woman in neurosurgery, but just as a neurosurgeon, because definitely we are few. Like right now for females, I think we are only 5 in the country, but there are some who are still, now there are many who are now in school. And so I feel like over the next few years, probably our numbers will double or triple, and that is good. You'll find that because of this gender imbalance, that even patients over time have gotten used to just being treated by a male neurosurgeon, you know. And for me, that is okay. I don't fight it because I know who I am. And if you feel that you would like to be treated by a male neurosurgeon, you're well within your rights. I will not be there to prove to you that, you know, I do this, you know, no, 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 no. I just let you go to wherever you're going, and I wish you well, and let my work speak for itself. And I feel that is how it should be. Like, I know I'm going to receive, like, you know, like a lot of backlash. But I feel that as women, we should just now, we should accept, not really accept, but this is the situation at hand. It should not prevent us from doing what we need to do. And we don't need to prove ourselves to anyone. You should just do what you need to do. And if a patient doesn't come to you, that's well and good. Like, you'll have millions of others coming to you if you keep on doing the right thing. I've had so many situations even where a patient would be like, hey, huyu msichana ndio anaenda kunifungua, you know. And I'll be like, yeah, ni mimi ndio huyo msichana. And I remember even one was like, ai, na unakaa mdogo. I was like, wow. In my head, I was like, this is a compliment that I still look so young. I thank God. So I feel it's just not really taking everything so to heart, you know. Just do what you need to do. And over time, I've had so many people just being comfortable with who I am has made other people comfortable around me. And also just having colleagues who have been so supportive. They don't treat me like a you woman. No, no, no. They actually pump me, you know, like they psych me up. And, you know, when you're going to operate together, they may even make me the lead of that operation. And I feel those are the things now that has, you know, that have made me very comfortable in my own skin. Whether I'm a woman, of course I can say I'm a man, but yeah, as a woman, yeah. What can I tell girls in school who want to become neurosurgeons? Yeah, be like, you know, who you envision yourself to be, who you see yourself to be. Just work at it. Don't let the opinions of what people think, what people are saying, what this one is saying or that one is saying stop you. You know, your start may have been flaky, but your finish is going to be glorious if you just keep at it. So don't be discouraged. Don't always want to seek validation, you know, empty validation from people. Just go for it. Go for it.